dinner today, we have some turnip greens and a hamburger and potato casserole. This is a brand new recipe for us, so we're going to show you how we made it and what our final thoughts were. As you can see, it's not like that photo finish kind of food, but it's worth it. Okay, so let's get this going. The first thing I'm going to do is drop my 2 pounds of ground beef down into our skillet. That way it can start cooking while I chop up veggies and everything. So although I am going to add 8 ounces of cremini mushrooms, mushrooms are not in the original recipe. I'm just doing this because the recipe calls for cream of mushroom soup, and I already have mushrooms in my fridge, so I might as well use them up while I have them. But if you don't like mushrooms, you can leave them out, and I'm sure you can even switch the cream of mushroom to something different. Maybe even cream of potato. It might be a little bit potato overload. Okay, so as you can see, our meat is not fully cooked, and that's okay. I'm just going to put a paper towel down in the bottom of this and get some of this grease out before we add in our seasonings. And honestly, I'm not concerned if this meat gets 100% fully cooked because it's going in the oven for like an hour. So it will definitely be cooked by the time it comes out. But it's just a little pink in some spots, so it's still on for a minute. But so to start, I'm going to just add in my 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms. Let those start cooking down. The recipe calls for 1 diced yellow onion, but my onion doesn't look great, so I'm going to use some of my dried onion to amp up the onion flavor in this, to help replace the one I'm missing. I didn't feel like thawing some of our frozen onions, so it's nice to have this on hand. You could also add in like a little bit of onion powder instead to replace that onion, especially if you're like me and I don't like huge chunks of onion in my food. I use a lot of onion for flavor, but I don't like chewing onion, that's for sure. And about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I'm going to add in about a tablespoon's worth of minced garlic. I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off on the stove. I'm going to start preheating the oven to 350. So first up, we're going to empty 1 can of cream of mushroom. I'm using the golden cream of mushroom, so that's why it looks different. It's supposed to have a lot more flavor. And then we're going to add in about a cup of half and half. All right, we're just going to mix this together. So I have 5 medium-sized russets that I sliced up just in these thinner little discs. I've had cold water over them just to keep them from turning brown, oxidizing, and all that yuckiness. So I'm going to drain this off and we're going to start our layers up. So we're just going to layer potatoes across the bottom, and I may have sliced these a bit thin. That's okay. I'm okay with adding some extra layers if I need to. I sliced them by hand, so you can see they're not exactly even. But you could use your mandolin or your cheese grater, anything to help slice it. I just figured this would go faster. I'm kind of doubling these up in some areas because the potatoes in the recipe only show that it makes 2 layers, and this is 2.5 pounds of potatoes. So I obviously need a thicker bottom than what I was thinking right at first, but that's a little less than half that's in there right now. Next up, we need half of our ground beef mixture. We need 3/4 of a cup of shredded cheese. It said use Colby Jack, which is music to my ears. You could probably also use like a cheddar. And then we're supposed to pour over half of our soup mixture and then repeat the layers. 3/4 of a cup of cheese, which this part was a little confusing to me, and you'll see why in just a second. We're going to pour in over the rest of our sauce mixture, or our soup mixture. It almost looks like we have hot sauce in it, but we do not. And here's why I said this last part was crazy to me, because we're adding that last 1.5 cups of cheese. And I don't really feel like the soup covered that much of the cheese that we couldn't just do it all in one layer, but following how it said. Now I feel like this is a little bit less than 1.5 cups, but it will be okay, I'm sure. Our oven is preheated to 350. We're going to cover this and bake for 1 hour. Now, to keep this foil from sticking to my cheese, I'm going to spray it. That way my cheese stays on my casserole and not on my foil. So we will see y'all back in an hour. Alright y'all, so our potato or hamburger and potato casserole is out of the oven. I did a little fork test and the potatoes feel done. So a dish like this just always makes me nervous. I hope they're all the way done. But we are going to give it a try, and Thatcher asked that since he picked this, if he could taste test. So I'm going to call him in here and see. You ready to eat? Alright, you have a seat. So actually it's not bad. I do feel like we can each individually add our own salt to it, maybe a little more pepper, but the potatoes are perfectly cooked. The meat obviously is all the way done, and everything really works well together. So I say it's a win. We're going to sit down and have dinner.
It's WWW. Win.
We're going to sit down and have dinner. I just made some turnip greens to go along with it, and hopefully we've got a good little balance.